Y'all know what time it is. It's the time where Sunrise on the Reaping is finally out, and honestly, like, I don't even know how to feel. Like, I feel like this day snuck on me so quickly. Like, I pre-ordered this months ago, but suddenly it's the release date and this book is literally at my doorstep. And it's actually a lot smaller than I thought it would be, and I checked the page count. It's just under 400 pages, so it's pretty short. I have no idea what's in store for me. I'm so excited. If you know me, you know that Hunger Games is one of my favorite series of all times. I love those books so much. Like, if you go back to my very first video that I posted like almost 10 years ago, you can see that I did my like top 5 books at that time, and Hunger Games is part of it. Like, Hunger Games has always been such a big part of my life. I've always been a Hunger Games girly. I love the books, I love the movies. I'm like obsessed with everything related to this series. It's time to read this book. I'm literally in the middle of another book right now that I'm reading for another reading vlog, but I will be putting that on pause and I will be getting into this book immediately. Like, literally right now I will be starting this book, and I will be taking you guys along with me with all my first reactions to everything. I love Haymitch as a character too. He's one of my favorite characters, and I feel so sad for him because we learn his backstory in Catching Fire, and he truly has been through a lot in his lifetime. And I know this book is gonna be so heartbreaking, like going through what he has to go through, like what we know of at least. It's also going to be interesting to see sort of like how Snow is in this book compared to like how we know of him in both Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes and the Hunger Games trilogy, because we can see his rise to power in Ballad, but then in the Hunger Games he's like fully like dictator, evil, like everything. So I don't know what he's going to be like. I think that would also be interesting. But enough of me rambling. This is just my way of saying that I have the book, that I'm doing a spoiler-filled reading vlog for this book, and that I will be sharing everything as I'm reading it and as I'm feeling it. Okay, I'm literally only on page 8, but I feel like we've learned so much already about like Haymitch and the people that he's around. And honestly, I feel like I don't even know if these things were already like discussed before or things that other people already know, but this is news to me. First of all, Haymitch's dad also died in a coal mine fire, and not that that means anything, but I thought that was interesting because that's like the kind of the exact same way that Katniss's father died. He died in like a coal mine accident. I thought that was interesting. And then Haymitch's love interest, who is this Covey girl named Lenore Dove, she is a Baird, which means that she is related to Lucy Gray Baird, who's the main character of Songbirds and Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. And that probably means that she knows her, because this is the 50th Hunger Games. The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes was the 10th Hunger Games, so it's been about 40 years. I have no idea if anyone knows about where Lucy Gray is, but it's very possible and very likely that Lenore Dove like knows about Lucy Gray. And I feel like Suzanne Collins wouldn't go there to like directly tie Lucy Gray, and like I don't know if she would bring in conversations about her in this book, but I just thought that was interesting. Again, I have no idea if this was prior available information because I did not see it, but this is news to me, so I thought it was cool that Lenore Dove is a direct descendant and relative of Lucy Gray. When I said I'm giving you my like first thoughts, reactions, I truly meant it. I'm like literally spewing thoughts as they're coming to me. But I think it'd be so cool if like Lenore kind of like mentioned Lucy Gray in some way, or that she was brought in conversation in some way, but we'll have to see about that. I feel like this book is already like so crazy. Like literally we have the Reaping, but the Reaping, Haymitch didn't even actually originally get called. Like, he wasn't actually supposed to go, but then that guy that did get called, Woodbine Chance, I guess that's his name, he's the one that's actually reaped, but he tries to escape and he gets killed. And basically stuff happens, his body is like in like on the ground, and then Lenora, I don't know how to pronounce it, tries to go and save the body, but Haymitch wants to keep her safe, so he runs, and then they're like, oh, you're the new guy, and Haymitch basically replaces him. and they have to keep up like this whole charade. They're trying to show that the districts are like cooperating, I guess. So this is all production. They paused it. They're like, we have 5 minutes to get this show basically back on track. It's like basically entertainment, and they're like, basically Haymitch is like just a random replacement, but obviously he's going to the Hunger Games, so it's like serious, but to them he's just like as if you were an understudy. I'm making absolutely no sense. Also, the guy that's like talking to Haymitch and telling him what to do, like the peacekeeper, his name is Plutarch. And I'm like, is this Plutarch Heavensby from like the Hunger Games, from Catching Fire, like the head game master who created that arena? Like, is that the same guy? And was he a peacekeeper? Did we know that about him? Like, why is he in District 12 and what's his history? Like, now I need to know his entire backstory too. And we're only on page 26 and I already feel like so much has happened, but like I'm loving this book so far, and everything. I feel like we're getting so many little like connections and just little tidbits of information being dropped, and names too. So yeah, this is definitely gonna be a wild ride of a story. I can feel it. I feel like I look so crazy right now, and if it looks like I woke up recently, it's because I did. But I have to talk about this book because I'm literally only on page 104, and I feel like so much has already happened that is just so heartbreaking. Like, literally Haymitch is friends with this girl named Luella who got also picked for the Hunger Games, and she already died and she's only 13, and he calls her sweetheart. And I'm like, that is like so sad, especially because he also like calls Katniss sweetheart in the Hunger Games. Oh my god, maybe she reminds him of Luella. Like, oh my god, I can't. And then also, when they go to the Hunger Games, District 12 doesn't have any victors, so they don't have anyone that can train them or be their mentors, and they have to get people from other districts. And Haymitch got Wirus and Mags, which I kind of mildly got spoiled for because I saw that on Twitter, so I have to be off of Twitter, I guess. But Wirus and Mags are his mentors, which is so crazy. I literally feel like there's a reunion happening in this book because we got Plutarch Heavensby, we got Wirus, we got Mags. Who else is gonna show up? Who knows? But yeah, obviously they're younger. Wirus won the 49th Hunger Games, we've come to learn, and Mags won, like, she's a little bit older, so she won like several years before that. But yeah, Wirus is still as strange, I guess, as we see her in Catching Fire. Her arena was an arena of mirrors, which I think is so cool. Also terrifying, but also very cool. And I'm just loving this book so much. I am terrified for what's gonna happen because Haymitch has been through already so much, and it's just so devastating because, like, we know that she's gonna go through so much more than he already has, and I'm already 100 pages in. So I just had to talk about that because this book is literally breaking my heart for him, and every time I like reread the Hunger Games and rewatch the movies in the future, I'm like never gonna see him the same again, especially like knowing what's going on in this book. And the average Goodreads rating for this book on Goodreads right now is like 4.75, which I know the book just came out, but still it already has 15,000 ratings and such a high rating. I'm like, period. Suzanne Collins really does that. She comes in, she drops a banger, and then she leaves for years and then comes back and drops another banger. So yeah, this could potentially be the book that breaks my 5-star drought that's been happening for the past year. Literally the last year I haven't given anything a 5-star except for the 7-year slip, and this could be the one to break that. And of course, it's going to be Suzanne Collins, like one of my favorite authors, one of my favorite book series and world. I can't jinx it too much, but I have very, very, very high hopes for this one, and I'm just enjoying it so much. Hey, I'm on page 252 of Sunrise on the Reaping. There's only 382 pages of this book, so I'm like just about 130 pages away from the end. And honestly, Haymitch cannot catch a break. Like, literally every other chapter he's like dealing with someone dying, and now we've gotten to the point where he's like actually in his games. And I like misremember the arena. I thought the arena was a desert, but it's actually not. It's basically this like really beautiful meadows, forest,
lots of flowers everywhere, like beautiful nature, but everything is poisonous. So they'll have like lots of food everywhere and foliage and fruit, but all of it's poisonous, so nothing can be eaten, and even the water's poisonous. Basically a very, very cruel joke from the capital, but Haymitch just figured that out. He's relying only on his food, but he has already witnessed 2 deaths. He had allianced with this group. Him and a bunch of districts came together and became an alliance. Like the careers we know are an alliance, like the top districts, and then we have the newcomers, which are everyone else that decided to form an alliance specifically for these games. And he's already lost one of the younger kids that he allied with, and also Luella, or the fake Luella, because Luella died in the original like welcome ceremony, but then the capital brought in like this random girl from District 11 to replace her because they didn't want everyone to see that there was like a mishap that happened during the welcome ceremony. So fake Luella and Amber, both like younger children, have died with Haymitch, and honestly like it's so sad. Like the different mutts that are coming out, it's honestly crazy. These games are honestly kind of crazy, and I just am feeling so sad for Haymitch just because he's already been through so much and he's already gonna go through so much. And yeah, I don't really know what else to say. Another familiar name that came up was Effie. Turns out she is Haymitch, or like District 12's stylist sister, one of the stylist sister, so that's fun. So yeah, Effie was fun to see, and Plutarch is already kind of showing his like rebellious tendencies in his book. We can already kind of see that he's a little bit against the capital, and although he's working for the capital, he's still like still has that rebellious spirit in him that we of course we know, because he starts like helping District 13 and with the rebellion and everything later on during the 75th, after the 75th Hunger Games, like in Mockingjay. Also, another thing, I don't know if this is a spoiler that I spoiled myself for, but Burdock, his best friend, is Katniss's dad. It's not in this book, but I was searching up because the name Astrid was mentioned, and then I saw somewhere that Katniss's mom's name is Astrid, and then I searched that up just to confirm, and it came up that Burdock is her father. So Haymitch's best friend is Katniss's dad, apparently. Crazy connections, crazy things that are happening. So I mentioned like I hope Lucy Gray would be mentioned, and she kind of is, but she still kind of is mentioned as this like lost lone victor of District 12 that no one really talks about. She's kind of removed from history. She's vanished into thin air. No one mentions her. Not even the Covey, like Lenore Dove, doesn't want to mention her either. So there's obviously like history there, but yeah, we never really get to talk about it in this book. All the little like clues and hints and connections and little foreshadowing things that are coming up in this book, I'm loving. I can see how someone would say that it seems like a little bit fan service to be name dropping all these people that we already know, but I don't really see it as that. I just think that seeing all these characters that we already know in this book make the stories that happen in the later books, like in the Hunger Games series, so much more meaningful, and like it just brings more nuance and levels to like their interactions. Like I will never be able to read the Hunger Games series like the same ever again, because I'll be like, oh, these people, they've known each other for years, even though we only see them like interacting for us for the first time obviously in the Hunger Games, but now we're seeing that a lot of these characters have so much history with each other. And it'll be interesting whenever I like reread the Hunger Games in the future, it'll be interesting to know like the history that they have, knowing from like this book. Also, completely unrelated, this book so far, stunning, beautiful. This cover, ugly, not stunning, not beautiful. I don't know why. Like I know this is like the necklace he got from Lenore Dove, but still, like it's ugly. This circular like weird bird snake thing is ugly. I don't like the color. Like the color's fine, I guess, but I don't like the cover with the color, and it just seems so empty. And yeah, completely unrelated, but yeah, this book, so sad, so heartbreaking. Definitely am hoping to finish this book this weekend. Today is Saturday. Well, technically it's Sunday because it's like almost 2 in the morning. But yeah, I'm really, really enjoying reading this book. And everything is so sad. Like, he literally had to watch this one, like, young district, I forget what district, boy named Ampert, who's actually Beatty's son. So Beatty is like a mentor. Okay, this is also sick and twisted. Beatty had to mentor his own son, and he basically knew that his son would die, and he kind of had to like live with that and hoped that he wouldn't die like a painful, horrible death. And that is just the type of cruel shit that the Capitol will do. Like, what do you mean you're mentoring your own son to his death? That's just crazy and cruel. And yeah, and the way he died also, of course, is a painful, brutal death. There were these squirrel mutts that were like basically squirrels, but super crazy and super aggressive and with massive like teeth. And they basically picked Ampert to death, so they just ate at his skin away. And then when he's gone, like all that's left is his, like, literally his bones. Like the squirrels literally picked him clean, and Beatty most likely had to watch his son die that way. I literally could not believe my eyes when I was reading that, and I was left truly flabbergasted at the way that things are happening in this book. Anyway, enough of me yapping. I will probably update you like closer to the end, or by the time I've already finished this book, who knows. But yeah, crazy stuff is happening. I'm sure crazy stuff will happen. Well, I know crazy stuff will happen because I know like how his story goes based on like what happens in Catching Fire. I know it's gonna be like devastating and heartbreaking, and I'm not looking forward to that. Please ignore my haggard look. I'm like literally was about to go to bed, but I had to do an update because I have officially finished Sunrise on the Reaping by Suzanne Collins literally like 5 minutes ago. And now I have to go and stare at a wall for the next like 12 hours contemplating everything that happened in this book. Because what do you mean everything that happened? We know all the shit that happens, but I feel like it's so much more heartbreaking to like actually read about it. And also, I'm giving this book 5 stars. It's ending my 5-star drought. If you don't know, I haven't given a book 5 stars since last March, I think, I think it was March, but that's when I read 7 Year Slip. That was my last 5-star. But almost a whole year later, Suzanne Collins is of course the one to break that. Of course it's her. Like, The Hunger Games is one of my favorite worlds and series of all time, and I'm not surprised at all that this book is the one that's breaking that drought. But yeah, this book actually really surprised me in the very end, but we'll get to that. But we basically go through like the events of the Hunger Games like as we kind of knew it from the Catching Fire, but we also got to know stuff that wasn't aired. And Suzanne Collins said this book is all about like propaganda, and also like it talks about like how long it can take for change to like happen, because Haymitch has that rebellious spirit where he wants to get rid of the games. He doesn't want the reaping to happen anymore. He wants the games to end, and he wants to be like an active part of that, but he doesn't know how. And the way that he has been doing it so far obviously led to all the events that we know that happened. So like he's very down bad because he wants that change, and he knows it's gonna take a while, but it's just a long and really, really hard process before that change actually happens. Yeah, Macy Lee Donner dies from some mutts, and then Haymitch was working with Beatty, I don't know if I mentioned this before, to like blow up some water tanks that were underneath in the ground level to like sort of destroy some of the machinery that was powering the arena. And he was left with one of the bombs. So right after he killed the last remaining tribute, and right when he was crowned victor, he actually like exploded one of the bombs as like a way to go out to show like the Capitol and President Snow that he didn't want to be part of like
he didn't want to be a pawn in their games, basically. Because of that, he goes back home, and his mom and his brothers and their house has been burned down, and they've been killed alongside that house fire. So devastating, so tragic. And then he finally finds Lenore Dove. She was actually imprisoned the entire time, but she was recently let go, and he finally gets to see her. But then she's holding this bag of gumdrops because she really likes candy and she really likes those gumdrops, but the ones she's holding are actually from President Snow, and of course they're filled with poison. She eats them, and Lenore Dove literally dies in Haymitch's arms. Like, imagine the love of your life dying in your arms. That's literally what he had to go through. And we kind of see the aftermath of that. There's like a couple chapters going through like how he kind of turned to alcohol as a way to escape all of this, kind of just escape into his mind and not really have to think about all the loss that he's been through. And also that he has to like kind of mentor all the District 12 kids to their death. But the part that surprised me was that the very last chapter, which is the epilogue, actually was after the events of Mockingjay. So it was right after like all the revolution and the rebellion and everything had, the war and everything had gone through, and it was kind of mirroring like the last epilogue of Mockingjay, where Katniss and Peeta were like adults, they had children, and they were kind of learning to put their life back together after the events of like the Hunger Games and Mockingjay and everything. And we kind of see what Haymitch is going through, and we kind of also get closure to what Haymitch was doing during that time, which is that Katniss brings him a few like goose eggs because Lenore Dove used to like have this flock of geese that she would like tend to and raise, basically, and Haymitch like kind of does that too, and I think it like helps him heal basically from all the events that have happened that we know of. Anyway, it's very cute but also really, really sad because like we know what he's been through now. And he talks about how Lenore Dove's like always with him, and she's always been with him through this entire time, and he's never really found anyone else after that. So I don't know, just so sad, so devastating, heartbreaking, tragic. My Goodreads review literally says I was shot 57 times, so I feel like that pretty much sums up how I feel about this book. It was just so sad, tragic, but also had a lot of like really relevant topics of discussion, especially with like the political climate right now. But yeah, the title, we come to know, means that Lenore Dove was kind of asking Haymitch to not let another sunrise happen on a reaping, so basically like end them for good so that reapings and the Hunger Games don't exist anymore. And now we know that Katniss is the one that finally was able to stop the sunrise on the reapings, and I thought this just was a beautiful full circle way to bring this whole story together, and I truly could not have thought of like a better ending and a more like hopeful ending, I guess, because we know like his events are obviously really, really sad, so I didn't want it to end on like a super depressing note, and I'm really, really glad that it ended on a note where we know that the Hunger Games have now ended and that Haymitch is now slowly healing and that he's gonna be okay in the end. I love this. I loved seeing Haymitch's story and his journey from becoming like who he is in this book to becoming the person that we know of in the Hunger Games, and then later on like him healing in Mockingjay. I was really hesitant about this book because I don't know, it's just like sometimes like when authors write books in a series that are super popular like that, it sometimes feels like it can be like cash grabby or feel like it's for money. But I know Suzanne Collins, I trust her. She usually says that she only writes books when she has something to say, and I can totally see what she's trying to say with this book. So overall, I'm so happy. Again, my first 5 stars, so excited about that. And I don't know if she's gonna write any other books in this series. The ending of this kind of felt like she was kind of tying everything together, so I don't know if there's going to be anything else, but who knows, she's always surprising us. But yeah, that is it for my Sunrise on the Reaping reading vlog. Please let me know down below if you read this book, as of course I would love to know all your thoughts and your reactions to this book, as of course I would love to know. But that is it for this video. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time. Bye.